welcome to the show, everyone. I'm
Hello.
Brad Jones. This is Ryan Mitchellly, and I've got it titled here for when we do these. And I'm like, oh, Friday night movies. That works. It's the new movies out on Friday. It sort of goes along with what we were calling the show before years ago when we were calling it midnight screenings.
Who knew that naming a show to do movie reviews would be so complicated and would take us this time to figure it out?
It took several years. Notice how it was several years ago that we stopped seeing the movies at midnight.
Right, yeah.
Well, I guess it did sort of turn into a situation where sometimes we were reviewing them at midnight. If the screening if it was a bad comedy that Irving and I were at 10 o'clock, when the movie would be 2 hours for no reason.
Right, yeah.
All right, so we got 4 movies coming up for you tonight. We've got Detective Pikachu, the new Pokemon movie that's out, the biopic Tolkien, as well as The Hustle, the comedy with Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson, also the comedy Poms with Diane Keaton. Plus, we got some other stuff to talk about, too. Donate to our Patreon page to see early content. Early Cinema Snob episodes are on there. You can take part in episode polls, as well as writing down a personalized message for the Cinema Snob to say. And you can... The top tier on there as well has where you can request movies for us to review. Plus, subscribe to our channel at youtube.com/stonedgremlinproductions. And you can follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob and Instagram at The Cinema Snob as well. Our latest Cinema Snob episode came out last Monday, which was for Puppet Master. If you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, go for it. But yeah, we got 4 movies to get to tonight, so... and it's the one that you and I both saw.
Right.
Let's get to, let's show this clip right here from Detective
Welcome
Pikachu.
to Rhyme City.
Whoever you are, I know how to use this.
Oh, jeez.
Here we go.
I like that we both saw this movie.
Yes.
At separate times, which is usually the case. We usually go to different screenings of them. But I was at the movie theater
right.
when you were watching this film, and I didn't even realize you were there. I was in Poms, and you sent me a text of
the marquee, the little thing that said the name it said Pokemon DET, so like Pokemon Debt. So I sent you a joke about saying, oh, they must, this is what they owe to the feds. And so then you're like, oh, wait, are you at the movie theater? And yeah, so you're in the other.
I go, dude, are you here? Because I could tell by the marquee where I was like, oh, that's here at 12. Yeah, I'm like sitting in the trailers were on, and I was sitting in the back so no one could see that I was on my phone. I'm like, are you here? You're like, yeah, I'm at the 1140 Detective Pikachu. Like, oh, man, I'm next door in Poms. Now, this is... Okay, so this is the movie where Ryan Reynolds is the voice of Pikachu, and it's a murder mystery in which the son of a cop, played by Justice Smith, it's a buddy mystery, like kind of light noir for kids movie, and it's certainly sold on that you don't necessarily have to be in this fandom to go see this movie. You don't need to necessarily know a lot. Like a casual viewer, even if you know like the bare minimum of Pokemon, you could probably go into this movie fine. And that's certainly how the trailers come across. And that's how it looks, which appeals to me certainly, because thinking about it, I'm like, this might actually be the first Pokemon movie that I've seen. I mean, unless you count that, like, unless you count when I had to do Strokemon on the Cinema Snob, and not sure if I want to see a kids movie version of that.
No,
I've seen that thing naked.
Okay, so I have I remember the show. The show was really popular when I was younger. I mean, the show's been around. I mean, Pokemon have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So I remember the show when I was younger. I never really got into it. I mean, like I had friends that had the whole card game. They definitely played it on the Nintendos.
Yeah.
They were super, super, super into it. I never really got into it until really recently with Pokemon Go.
Oh, okay.
The app. And so and the reason why it's funny is because when I was working on the Sharknado movies, there's a lot of times where, the director or the producers or whatever, they're watching me work or what, right?
Yeah.
And so they're just sitting there doing nothing. So they'd be on their phones And I wonder what they were doing. They were playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, like, they were just talking about it. And then, I have time where I'm not doing anything. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get into this too. So I got into Pokemon Go. So, like, I have a passing knowledge. I don't know the names of all the Pokemon, but I know enough of them now from playing that game that it was really fun to see them and recognize the ones that I recognized in this movie. And I think, what was nice is that it never fully assumed you knew what that Pokemon could do if it needed to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You see some just running around or doing things that are not important, but if it needed to do something, they did explain, oh, that's a this, it turns into a that.
I was never confused by this movie.
Yeah.
And I even, like I said, even though I'm not... I don't know much about the show or anything like that, other than what really anybody probably would. I could tell even by looking at it in the big crowd shots when they're in Rhyme City and everything that I'm like, okay, this is probably one of those situations like, not saying one's better than the other, but like take for instance something like Space Jam where it's like, you could probably... knowing Looney Tunes as well as I do, like, that's not a very good movie, but, like, it's like, in the crowd shots in the stadium and everything, you see all of these, sometimes a lot of characters that maybe only showed up once, like, in one episode, or in one cartoon or something, like, you see, like, and even, like, some of the lesser-known ones, like, oh, there's Claude the Cat, and there's Claude the Cat again, because they duplicated him. What?
Because animation is expensive.
Yeah, like, so, there's Bunny and Claude, like,
Right.
So I got a sense that probably kind of the case here with a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of creatures and Pokemon that, they never specifically name, but, they're pretty popular and pretty common. And so that was fun. I like the idea that, and I guess maybe this is how that universe always is, but everything that's an animal is some form of Pokemon.
Yeah.
There wasn't just like a house cat there,
Right.
Or like when the birds were flying by, they were Pokemon.
The panda bears.
And
everything. Ones that look kind of like a dog.
Right. The Growlithes and then the Arcanine or those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that because my current buddy on Pokemon Go is an Arcanine. This is how we make movies nowadays, is we all play Pokemon Go. So that was cool. I like that. I like getting to see that. I think that the kind of the photorealistic look of the Pokemon, I think, was pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think that was really cool.
And I'll bring it up because I see this getting referenced in the chat, and I'm about to bring this movie up too. Which, by the way, if you want to get your super chat questions in, go for it. We answer the super chat questions in between the reviews. I knew I was forgetting something at the beginning of it. See, ding! We got one. We'll answer it after the review. But like, it's one of those movies that... Movies like this are fun in seeing how this society works.
Yes.
How we have this society where these creatures are integrated in with humans, like, as they mentioned in the chat, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This has a lot of nods to that, certainly. So seeing how in Rhyme City, where this is taking place, how they all coexist with each other, how what they're... a lot of it, they're treated like personal pets. Really,
right.
Like,
they're specific, like buddies. They're like they're that you choose a Pokemon, it chooses you, and then you become inseparable with them.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. And I mean, again, that sort of my knowledge of the old Pokemon cartoons, that seems like that was the case there.
Yeah.
Again, it's been a long time since I watched them, and I never watched like the whole series. But when it was on, I'd watch it. I had friends who watched it, so I'm familiar with it.
I liked how how it started out kind of dark, like a little bit, like even visually speaking, like it does a good job with the noir aspect of the film. Like, a lot of it's kept fairly light because it's a PG rated movie, but there are a lot of dark neons, rainy alleys, a lot of nighttime in the movie. It does way better with that than what something last year tried doing, which was the Happy Time Murders.
Oh, right.
Where, I mean, that obviously was more for adults, but both are about a city and a society where, in that movie's case, it's a detective movie,
puppets,
it's a cop movie, but they live in a society with puppets, whereas that you could tell from the storyboards of that movie they wanted to give it this really gritty, noiry look to it.
Yeah.
That's not really what they ended up doing in the movie. Whereas this, I mean, it never goes full-blown adult like that movie did, but
no.
There are a lot of really, like, kind of dark, like, almost Blade Runner-ish in a way, in some scenes.
Yeah, it definitely has the feelings of a good cop detective thriller.
Yeah.
But still, it still meets the PG.
It does.
But honestly, like, my daughter who's 5, I was thinking as I was watching this some of this might be a little too intense for her.
Yeah, it depends on the kid, like, but I mean, obviously,
but there's action, and I mean, it's photorealistic action with these creatures that are attacking them.
Yeah.
And even though they're never really shown to do like mortal damage, like the weapon, like when those, like I forget what they were, but like something ninjas were throwing things at them and they were running away. Like it was never shown so that like the damage that would do would be like, bloody, big, all, it's like, but they're throwing stuff at them and they're exploding, so they're in some kind of peril.
Mm-hmm.
But it was never made to look like, it was really bloody, horrible, terrible peril.
Even the case that they are solving in it, like I like that it's it is.
Yeah.
It's a murder where Justice Smith's dad has been murdered in this fiery car crash.
Right.
And what I like about him, I actually like him in this movie a lot.
Yeah,
because
I do too.
He's really good. There's been a couple other things I've seen him in. I remember that. Seems like there's a couple other things I've seen him in where I also liked him, but one I didn't, which was, this really didn't have much to do with him. It was a bad character. He was this annoying comic relief in Jurassic World.
That's what's funny is I think that was the last thing I saw him in.
Yeah.
And like I kind of liked some of the things he did in that, but that movie had just problems everywhere else. So,
that character was one of my least favorite things about it.
Right.
But
well, he disappears and then just randomly other movie. So
here I like him a lot in this.
Yes,
he's a good character in this because for the kind of movie this is, it's like how Eddie Valiant was in Roger Rabbit, where his story and his motivation for everything isn't a comedy.
No.
And that's the case with Justice Smith in this, whereas like he's trying to find out who killed his dad, and he's clearly got some issues in his past with his father that he's dealing with throughout the movie. He has very serious scenes in this film.
Yeah.
For this character, like this, the movie is it's mostly a comedy, but I like this, that not only is he a straight man, but like he's legit trying to solve something pretty damn serious.
Right, yeah. There's a lot of more mature themes in that of what he's trying to do, and the relationship between him and his father, and then also like over the death of his mother. That's what pushed them apart. Mm-hmm. And those are it's very well done. I like that. I like that they made what could have been a more mature detective film still approachable and fun. And a lot of that comes into the Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, which is funny because I mean it's been said 1,000 times, but it's Deadpool who can't swear, and it kind of is.
Not as much as the trailer made it look.
Right, but you're right. That's what I was going to say is that they toned it down enough that he's very funny.
Yeah, he is.
And it's very charming little character because, I mean, Pikachu is this adorable little fuzzy yellow thing. But instead of having the normal Pika, 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 having his deeper kind of, funnier voice, I thought worked really well. So.
It worked better. It worked a lot better than I thought it would going into it. And I don't get me wrong, I like Ryan Reynolds a lot. I do. I really, really dig Ryan Reynolds. The way, and I understand why the trailer was sold by like this.
Because it's Ryan Reynolds. It's Deadpool, the thing is.
And he is funny in the movie. Like, he is cracking a lot of jokes in it, certainly. A lot of, like, sitcom-style one-liners.
Yeah.
But not to the extent... The trailer came across where, like, is this just going to feel like Deadpool somehow got
turned into a
Pokemon and he's kind of riffing the movie as it goes along? It never went that far for me, really.
It never did.
Like, I was worried about that going into it, but watching it, it's like... Yeah, he's jokey, but he's really making this feel like his own, other than it's just Deadpool again. Because he does have, along with Justice Smith in the movie, they both do have some pretty serious scenes together.
He has an actual story arc, and I mean, it's in the trailer as well, where he has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
And so he's also trying to solve his own mystery. Mm-hmm. And he actually has a character arc as well. He's not just a little wisecracking sidekick that falls around. Like, he's actually actively trying to make this thing work.
Yeah, and it makes total sense. Like, it makes total sense that it's Ryan Reynolds playing the part. It does. Especially when you see the movie.
Right.
And because even before going into it, I was thinking, like, I sort of feel like Danny DeVito or someone like that might be a better fit for this voice. But no, having seen the movie, it's like, no, Ryan Reynolds was right for this.
Right.
And it, like, it's, because it is a, it's a PG-rated mystery for kids, so it's not like a lot of it is unpredictable or anything. Like, it's one of those.
You know what's interesting about that though is that having watched it, there were certain things that were predictable.
Yeah.
But not disappointing. And one of the moments that this happens, and it's partially in the trailer. And again, I don't know what the name of the Pokemon are, but they're like a turtle that burrows underground and then pops up and it has like dirt on its back.
Yeah.
And so they tease initially that like, oh, there's a growth hormone that's being made for them. Yeah. Oh, but these look like normal size. And they get outside and then like mountains are moving.
Yeah.
And it seemed predictable. It's like, oh, well, that's obviously the giant version of those things we saw in the lab earlier. And then it's revealed that they are. I mean, yeah, I predicted that, but the sequence was done really well.
No, that sequence was done well.
I saw that coming, but I'm not disappointed.
It was the only thing that was really, like, I hesitate to say frustrating, because there's another movie I saw that night that did this 1,000 times worse. So it's like, I almost really don't want to complain about that with this film. But it's one of those cases where I'm not going to spoil this movie, but as soon as one particular character shows up, and it probably has a lot to do with the casting, it's like villain, and even different items they were showing through the movie and what this particular thing does. I'm like, villain, here's why he's doing it, here's what's going to happen with him at the end. Now and because of that, there was certain parts where it's one of those mysteries where I felt like I was constantly a few steps ahead of the characters who were investigating it.
Yeah, but I will say that even though you're totally right in that, like, I mean, and that's just that's just detective movies in general. Like, a cliche is that these particular characters are like villain. They did a couple of things. You're right. Most of the things I agree. It's like it was paint by numbers. But there was a couple little things like, okay, well, that's kind of a cool twist on that same thing they always do.
You're right in that there were a couple of things I didn't see coming.
Right, and there's a lot of it felt somewhat predictable, not always disappointing, but there was just a couple things, just enough, just enough that I was like, oh, that's kind of a clever way to do that.
Yeah, there's one thing involving one of the other villains that I didn't quite see coming. Maybe if you're more familiar with the characters and everything, you might. And there was one particular deal with a major character in this movie that I didn't see coming through the end till the end, and then even thinking back on it, it was like, oh, okay, well it's not something that's just sort of random. It's like you can think back and be like, oh, okay, I see why this kind of led to this and that. And I was kind of laughing, though, in the climax of the movie where it kind of became 89 Batman for a little bit.
With the giant balloons.
Were you thinking this too? Okay, so this part I'll say, this really isn't a spoiler. They show a little bit of this in the trailer where, like, one of the villain's major plans is this parade through the city with these giant balloons, and might as well be Smilex gas attached. I'm expecting to see Alexander Knox like hit at goons with a bat, and like Jack comes out like, he stole my balloons. Why didn't somebody tell me he had one of those things?
I thought that too. I definitely thought.
And I was so mad that Fathom Events didn't send Batman here when they re-released it last weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, at least I got to see some balloons with gas attached to it. Sure, why not? But it was a sweet movie. Like, it wasn't something that I like consistently laughed at throughout it. I got a decent amount of laughs in the movie, but whenever there was one that like maybe didn't land necessarily, I wasn't sitting there groaning.
Right, yeah. Overall, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I enjoyed the film.
Considering some of the stuff we have to see, like this was fun. Like this was a fun movie, and I agree that if you had some jokes that were just a little weird, but what I do just enjoy greatly was that I felt that this was approachable And again, we said this at the beginning.
It is.
It was approachable. If you have no idea what this franchise is, you just have to get under the idea that these are little creatures and they babble. That's kind of it. You know, and that's
weird. It's like I know. It's like this is kind of like a weird take on like a boy and his dog kind of thing. Not the movie A Boy and His Dog. It's about Pikachu in the wasteland after the nuclear holocaust.
I mean, it is weird in general because you think about it. Like, I mean, you know, I remember thinking this, you know, when I was in grade school or high school, whenever it was when Pokemon became. It's like, oh, so you capture them against their will and you force them to fight each other.
I know. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, there's even some that look kind of like dogs. I'm like, but it's got nationally televised like. Dog fighting, like what? This universe is weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird, yeah. But I mean, if you get over that, because effectively,
you just gotta accept it.
You just kind of have to accept it because effectively they're fine, right? Like
Yeah,
they battle each other and they knock each other out.
Yeah.
And then they come, and then like they're fine. They're not like you killed my whatever. You know, it's like no, it's oh you lost the battle, dang.
Yeah, I guess it's not like Robo Wars or whatever it was called, Robot Battles, whatever that show was.
Right, yeah, where they fight to the death.
Yeah, and it's got. I wish I had looked up who does the soundtrack, but it was like you could tell they're certainly appealing to a certain era of this kind of movie. Like there's a shot in the movie where it's when Justice Smith first goes into his dad's office and the movie playing on the TV. Did you catch this?
Angels with Filthy Souls or Filthy Mouths, right? Or no, Filthy Souls. Angels with Filthy Souls from Home Alone. Yeah.
He's watching that. So I'm sitting there, me being me, like, wait, is this the same universe as Home Alone? Like I guess it's years later and Pokemon exists in here now. It's like this is what you're telling me. This is the Home Alone universe that we're watching this in. Even the soundtrack that it had, it's got a very kind of synth wavy soundtrack, which I liked a lot because I love those kind of soundtracks, and even how some of it was shot and the way some of the humor was in the movie.
Right.
It had a vibe of this kind of movie from like the era between the first Ninja Turtles movie and like the 93 Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, yeah.
Better than the Super Mario Brothers movie, but probably like Ninja Turtles better than this.
Right.
But no, I had a pretty good time with this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it sounds like we both had similar audiences.
Yeah. No, given we were sitting in the middle of the day and it's a school day.
Yeah.
Well, I saw it in the middle of the day, but it was mostly 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
Either with other 30-year-old men or by themselves.
We didn't stick out at all.
I'm 30 and I was by myself, so it's not like I was like, oh, look at all you two. No, it's like, no, I'm here too. So there's no kids and there's very few women. So
there was some big dude sitting like kind of near me. I got up to use the restroom at one point and he looked like he was passed out. I don't think like halfway through the movie, and it didn't really come across like it was a situation where it was like, oh, I guess he doesn't like this movie and fell asleep. No, it just looked like maybe he fell asleep from the meat sweats. Like,
it's all that little packaged canned ham that he brought with him.
Like that guy at what was I at?
Tuna, right?
He was eating a can of tuna. Like Neil Breen is sitting next to me eating a thing of tuna fish. What the hell was that? It was something bad too.
No, it's just funny that obviously I saw it in a time when kids were supposed to be at school. So, but because this franchise has been around so long, there's a lot of people that are our age that this is what they played when they were kids. Mm-hmm. So getting to see a movie that is this well produced, featuring those characters in that universe, it's a pretty cool thing. But I also have a 9-year-old nephew who he was really into Pokemon. Now he's into Bakugan and this other thing with these little like balls, and you throw them at each other and they turn into little robots. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. My biggest experience with Pokemon was because it got big when I was in high school, in the States at least, was I'd be hanging out over at Dave's after school, and he would usually have it on. Like, not that I think he was like super into it. I think
it was a super popular show.
Yeah, well, I think he was. I seem to recall like he would usually have it on, but then would be working on his art or something. He'd have it on in the background, and might have been a little high too.
Yeah.
Like, Dave, why we got this on? Like, there's a 2-hour block of Family Matters on TBS right now.
That's right.
Flip it over. It's the one where Carl accidentally kills Urkel's stick bug. It's a classic. Before we get into the next one, let's go ahead and answer some of your super chat questions here.
I got a few.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much, Tommy Williams. My childhood dream of LA Pokefilm is now true.
Yeah.
Hey, my dream of seeing a Pokemon movie that's not Strokemon also came true.
That's also good. That's good.
Delta Septile says, I love the fighting of this movie.
Lighting
Sorry.
of this movie.
I hated the fighting.
The fighting.
Though. It has moments that look straight out of Drive or Only God Forgives. It kind of does. Yeah, that's a good comparison. It really does have a lot of neons, blue lighting. Again, like a lot of alleyway chases and everything. It did a good job with that look.
It's great. Yeah, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Tommy Williams, what cards do you get? Got snub. Maybe this is for you. I don't know what these words mean.
Well, okay, so I assume you're referring to because they gave me a packet of cards when I went to see it.
They didn't give me dick.
They didn't?
No.
So I didn't open it because I'm going to give it to my nephew. Mm-hmm. And what's funny, I talked to my brother and I was like, is he still into these? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. Like he was really into them a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, cool, I got an exclusive card because that's the game. It's a card game.
Okay.
And so like in that packet is probably like you're saying the Snubbull and Psyduck. Those were the characters. Remember Snubbull?
Psyduck, yeah.
Yeah, and Snubbull was the Ken Watanabe's.
Oh,
that's a Snubbull.
okay. Oh, yeah, him. He was another one I liked in this movie because he's another actor in this movie who is acting like he's out of a cop thriller.
Well, and that's great. I mean,
exactly.
but it's so good because they took it seriously.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, it's not like, haha, we're in a wacky cop movie. No, like this was a straight up detective noir thriller in a friendly environment for children.
Yeah, Ken Watanabe in this is like how Bob Hoskins in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like he's acting like again, like this is like a hard noir thriller.
Just selling it. Yeah. So so I don't know what I got in my card packet because I'm waiting for my nephew to open it.
The same night though, I went to go see The Hustle, and boy, I got Hustle. So that review's coming up in a little bit. Silhouette Animator asks, did you see the trailer for the Swamp Thing show? I saw that they're using practical effects and body horror out of the thing. I didn't out of the thing.
Yeah, I've seen it. I also
I haven't. I didn't know there was a trailer for it.
Through obviously since I worked on the Sharknado movies, I know Ian Ziering. I follow him, and so yeah, he's in that.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's playing Blue Devil.
Oh, okay.
And he has I don't think it's been shown yet. But he has like full body prosthetic.
Is it a Sci-Fi Channel show then?
No, I think it's going to be on the Warner Brothers streaming service.
Because it's DC.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be on DC's streaming service.
The DC stream, which is part of Warner. Yeah, the DC streaming. Yeah, I think it's going to be on that. So just like Doom Patrol.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So which is interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it looks cool. I think it looks cool. I mean, these streaming services are so weird because everybody has to have a streaming service.
Yeah.
And you wonder what the metrics are of what it is that makes a show there successful.
Yeah.
Because CBS, launched their streaming service 2 years ago with Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
Like that show did really well. So now there's like 1,000 CBS streaming shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, 1,000, but there's several. Twilight Zone and a few others that are streaming only.
Oh, yeah, because that was their big thing, was to try to sell the Twilight Zone on
exactly, but the first thing they launched was with Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so it had a rocky first season. Second season was a little better, but because of the success of it, CBS is like, cool, let's build more shows.
Yeah.
But it's wondering how, are they getting enough subscriptions to match the cost of these shows? Mm. And you think DC is backed up by Warner Brothers, so they've got a lot of cash to do these sort of things. But you wonder if I don't know how well Doom Patrol's doing. I mean I don't know how well Swamp Thing's going to do because I don't have their streaming service.
Yeah.
That's another thing you got to go sign up for.
Yeah.
So if only all of these things were brought to you in some form of box that came with a cable.
I know. See, I just like having cable. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably showing my age, but when it gets dark out, I like just curling up and just watching Frasier reruns.
Old man.
I know. Like, I like channels.
Go out with
like,
us hip young kids who go out to, I assume, nightclubs?
Selling streaming on the black market.
That's
like,
right. Yeah, hey, man.
Got your discovery right here. So, yeah, I like channels like Cozy TV and like Me TV, I think is one. Antenna TV. I like those channels.
But it's the thing of like, okay, so you have so many hundreds of options.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, it's only $10 a month. I was paying $100 a month for cable.
Yeah.
But now I have 10 different streaming services that all cost $10 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm paying the same price, and I have to remember 10 different passwords every time I log into a new one.
I'm good with cable, man. Like.
So. What the hell hath we wrought? All right, next one down.
Oh, that's a good question. Adam Grunther, did you find the reporter character annoying at first? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of what those characters typically are. She's kind of an exaggeration of the super sleuth type of mystery character. I mean, she was kind of annoying. It wasn't like offensive to the point of like, ugh.
As the movie went on, I was liking her performance a little better.
True, because her introduction's obnoxious.
At first, she was like, everyone else is in a movie where they're all kind of working together, where the acting and the tone and everything is kind of, they're going along with each other fine. And then she shows up acting really over the top, like she's out of like a direct-to-video Harriet the Spy sequel.
Exactly, yeah. And like she's like, how would one pretend to act in one of these movies?
Yeah.
And I kind of think that was the direction she was being told to do.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, and I think the reason for that is because she is supposed to be so young and so inexperienced that she's a super inexperienced reporter who just so happened to find the scoop of a lifetime. So she doesn't really know how to. I mean, I'm building my own narrative here because it doesn't really say that. In the
she
movie.
was someone who felt like she was in a kids movie.
Yeah.
Who felt like, at least at first, felt like she's in something that should be airing on the Disney Channel.
Sure, right. Yeah.
Whereas everyone
she's from
else,
the Disney Channel. She was on a Disney Channel show.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. I forget exactly which one.
But whereas everyone else, even as silly as everything else got, it was the scene with the mime is really funny. It's really funny in the film.
It's like shockingly, like hilariously dark.
It ends on a really good joke.
Yeah, it does.
It ends on a really good cutaway cut joke at the end of it.
All right.
Eric Banks, not to be a downer, but thoughts on John Singleton. Man, that was a 1-2 punch of like between people dying in their 50s of strokes, Luke Perry and John Singleton. It was sad. Yeah.
Very sad.
Boys in the Hood was absolutely a groundbreaking film. It's inspired several things that came after it. Rosewood was incredibly underrated. The Ving Rhames movie. Higher Learning is one I liked a lot. Michael Rappaport's creepy as hell in that movie. That was a good one. No, I like John Singleton.
Yeah.
He's one that I always thought should have gotten more chances to do more stuff like Boys in the Hood or Higher Learning or Rosewood. Later, he did the second Fast and the Furious movie and that Abduction or whatever it was, that Taylor Lautner action movie.
Yeah.
I think he started doing some TV stuff as well, but that was really sad. Double Toasted did a really good video on him that's up on their channel. So they did a good 30-plus minute retrospective of John Singleton. Is that it for?
I think that's it for.
Okay, so now we're getting into I went to go see I had 2 movies last night. And I keep wanting to look at when the camera.
I know, right? This
right
is where
there.
it used to be, but now we have to.
There you are, audience.
We're not avoiding eye contact with you. It's
the Windy City poster is right behind it, so I should just look up like I'm talking to John Shea and Kate Capshaw.
Mine is Caligula. I'm looking right at Caligula.
Well, see, that's why your eyes are bleeding.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry. No.
All right, let's show the trailer here for the Anne Hathaway Rebel Wilson.
Order anything you like.
I'll have a club sandwich and an order of fries, 2 slices of cake. Do you want any cake?
No.
3 slices of cake.
She's the kind I'd like to flaunt and take to...
That was unexpected.
Oh, you think that's funny, huh? Are you laughing? I know what you're laughing at. You're not laughing at the trailer. You're laughing at the fact I had to go see that last night.
No, I'm laughing at the fact that maybe you don't realize you did it, but you audibly went, ugh.
The mic was on too, so you might have heard me.
So I was laughing at you going, ugh.
Oh man. So this is why, like.
Okay, kids, you can't watch it.
The negative stuff I had to say about Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
This is why I was like, Detective Pikachu is a movie I liked, but the criticisms I had towards it, I'm like, maybe I should go kind of light, because the other movie I saw last night did some things I was complaining about with Detective Pikachu way worse. Now, if you don't know The Hustle, this is actually a remake. It's a remake of
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which itself was there's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yes,
if you don't remember this con man comedy with Steve Martin and Michael Caine, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels itself was a remake of a David Niven movie. I believe it was Bedtime Stories, I think is what it was called. I've actually not seen that one. But Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that's a movie that I saw in the theater when it came out. Frank Oz directed it, and I remember this is 1988, I believe the movie came out, and I remember being super excited to see it because of this teaser trailer they had right here for it. Let me pop up a little clip.
To share with those you love, then you probably don't want to see Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Okay.
Right.
Now I remember going to see that movie in the theater and being so mad because that wasn't in the movie. And you know what? Honestly, they kind of do the same thing with the trailer for this movie, because this shot from the trailer is not in the movie. Unless it happened when I went to the restroom. There's no part where she's holding a gun in this film. At least like that.
Now, I will say, in the defense of filmmakers, that does sometimes happen.
Oh, it does.
Where,
yeah.
Because the trailer is usually cut long before the movie's done. So a lot of times they'll pull stuff out of the movie, or earlier cuts of the movie from scenes that don't make it into the final movie.
Or that, like, a shot like that makes it look like there is way more action in this movie.
And that's another thought too. Is they're like, we need this to look like there's more action. We've got some promo shots of her holding the gun. Let's just use them.
This movie, okay, so if you know Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Bedtime Stories, you know that it's about this classy English con man who, in that movie, it's Michael Caine, and then takes kind of as a protege and then sort of nemesis a little bit is Steve Martin, who's a much schlubbier, kind of more slapsticky, not quite as experienced.
Sort of more than con man.
That's it. They're doing the same thing here. Like, the classy one is Anne Hathaway, and in the Steve Martin role, it's Rebel Wilson. And I went to go see. There was a movie out earlier this year that Rebel Wilson did called "Isn't It Romantic," which I actually enjoyed, because it was she was really good in that film. She was well past doing a lot of things that got kind of tiresome from some of her other movies, from just a constant barrage of just falling down for no reason, bumping into things,
right,
eating fat jokes, all that constant through and through. And then Isn't It Romantic comes out, and she had a lot more to work with in that movie, and she was really good in that film.
Yeah.
She's hit or miss for me in other movies. Sometimes I think she's fine. Other times it's just the same joke again.
Yeah.
And going to see her last movie where that really wasn't the case, it was good. Oh, well, here's The Hustle. So
back to form.
We gotta make up for lost time, because that's all this movie is. That is all this movie is.
Yeah.
It is taking every joke that was clever or original about the other movies and replacing it with constant scenes of falling over tables, slipping on the floor, bumping into like a vase on the wall, or like, did you say you're using an app? I thought you said appetizer. Or what you see in the trailer, like, oh no, I'll get you dinner. Like, oh perfect, I'll have 3 pieces of cake and fries and a sandwich. Like, It's that
Yeah.
for 90 minutes of
joy.
this movie.
Oh,
It
joy.
is constant. They even do it more they do montages of it. Montages of it when the rest of the movie is that. And it doesn't stop because
God.
you said you've seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Okay. Do you remember how one of the big things from that movie is that Steve Martin is pretending like he's in a wheelchair and that his legs don't work?
Yeah.
And Michael Caine there's that funny scene where Michael Caine's hitting him in the legs.
Yeah, yeah.
They do that here where Rebel Wilson is pretending to be blind. So again,
Okay. I wondered because I saw that in the trailer she does the blind shot.
that's like half of this movie. It is like half of this movie of her pretending to be blind. Another excuse to just knock over shit, fall over things. I think she even says at one point, like, I'm a big bull in a china shop. And
Yeah.
even when jokes aren't about that, they're all just replaced with shit that's lame. Because there's several points where the joke just keeps on going because you can tell they're just telling her to riff.
Right.
Like
yeah,
she's
yeah.
just mumbling and stuttering through these jokes that aren't ending, that died minutes ago.
Yeah,
And others where the guy says to her, a dude in the movie says, like, what organization do you belong to? And she's like, oh, Australian Secret Services. The guy's like, what, ass? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm deep in ass. And then later there's a dude who's using a southern accent. He goes, why don't y'all go to the house and get some ice cream? Like, oh, okay, we'll go up and get some ice cream. Like, that's the level of it never rises above any kind of joke like that in the film.
Amazing.
It is bottom of the barrel joke crap from beginning to end of this movie.
That's amazing.
And
Yeah.
the most frustrating thing with the movie, other than you have taken, I'm sure the David Niven movie's fine.
Right,
The
right.
Steve Martin one is.
Yeah,
I remember as a kid not liking it because the part
got
where
the scene, yeah.
yeah. But later I saw it, I was like, oh no, yeah, this is a really good movie. That's successful enough to where that has like a Broadway musical, I think.
Yeah, it does. I've never seen the Broadway musical. I listened to the score. The score is great. It's a funny show.
And you've taken it and just turned it into like I never got as I can't say I was ever sitting through this movie necessarily angry at it.
Yeah.
It was just a series of the same unfunny joke happening again and again and again.
You know, to comment on that and just one more time compliment back to Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu didn't do fart jokes, right? It did one.
Not that I
it did
know
one
of.
like somewhat pee joke, but like in the trailer, you can see the thing where like he's trying to make his attack happen and he's grunting.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I totally thought that was going to be a fart joke. Didn't you? Didn't you kind of think that was going to somehow be a fart joke?
Still was like because
He doesn't fart, though.
Well, I know he doesn't fart, but he does say something.
He says,
like,
"I can't do it when people are looking."
Yeah,
You know,
which
so
is kind of a shit joke. Like,
Yeah, maybe,
I guess.
but I was expecting the fart sound. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay,
Like that's
yeah.
what I mean. It's like I was expecting it to go low there, and it doesn't. And I was
No.
like, oh, that was refreshing. Anyway, back to
But even that, like, let's say you hear in the movie,
right.
that wouldn't have ruined the movie.
Exactly.
for me.
Well,
Like,
I totally agree, but at the same time, the fact that they just didn't, they chose
no,
not
yeah,
to,
totally.
I think was better.
It would have been a bad joke in an otherwise fine movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
This
yeah.
was.
just nonstop.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
like she's big and can't fit in the bathroom on the airplane, and
Whoa!
man, here's why. There's a couple of reasons why I was mostly sitting there through this movie annoyed, as opposed to just wanting to kick the seat in front of me mad. I heard a lot of negative. I heard this was going over really poorly even before I went into it. So in my head, I was thinking, oh man, this is gonna be like this year's Life of the Party. I was never sitting in it as mad as I was in Life of the Party. Maybe the reason could have been one, this movie was shorter. This is under 90 minutes.
That's at least merciful.
So,
yeah.
It's in and out. It is. I'll say that about the movie. It goes by fast. Like I seriously, like it was over before I finished my popcorn. Like
yeah.
yeah, I looked at my clock. I'm like, oh well, I guess we're done here. And so I'm like, all right, well, I mean, thanks for that, I guess. And you could tell in some shots they were trying to be a little clever with some camera work. Like it has an opening credit, like an animated opening credit sequence where it's like, all right, this is a throw it back. This opening credit sequence is like a throwback to like a screwball comedy like
Yeah,
the 60s. Even some camera work throughout it. I could tell they were trying to be a little ambitious with some of it. But all of that, I was sitting there going like, this was done way better last year, where there was that movie A Simple Favor with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick, that's right. Yeah.
That was a much smarter movie than this was. More clever in its writing, more clever in its direction as well. But one thing, like I brought up in Detective Pikachu, I was like, oh, I've kind of, in some parts of it, I felt like I was a few steps ahead of the main characters. In this, if you've seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, you know how this ends.
Yeah.
They don't do any like spin on what the con is, other than it plays out the same, other than instead of can't walk, now she can't see, and Anne Hathaway is testing her blindness by putting a French fry in a toilet and sticking it in her mouth. Like, she can still taste and smell.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of bad stupid
that's
shit in this movie. But if you've seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, you know what's going to happen at the end with the main con that they're doing. And Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that's another one that did that. What they were doing with Janet, Glenn Headley in that movie, got kind of dark, where it was like, no, this is going along with the title. Like, you felt for her character in this movie, even before you get to the ending. Like, it's like it's what they would kind of do much darker later on in like Neil LaBute's In the Company of Men, like how they're really kind of toying with this Janet character in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. In this, the movie it's a role reversal, so the Janet equivalent in this is played by I don't know the actor's name, but he's actually pretty good in this movie. And Anne Hathaway's fine in it. Like, in a much better script, Anne Hathaway would still be good casting for this part. But you know how it ends. So because you know how it ends, and they don't shake up the ending on it, what the con is, or anything like that. So, they repeat whole sequences. So now I'm watching this lame comedy with lame jokes that aren't a fraction as clever as they were in the other movies. And I'm watching it knowing where it's going to go. Knowing, like, okay, when's the reveal going to be? When's he going to do this? When are they going to do this? And yeah, that's what happens. Like, there's no other twist to it. It's just a crap version of a much better movie. It was...
Well, they made it, so there you go.
Yeah.
What else can you say?
But that was part of the reason why I was glad there was only 2 movies I had to see last night. Sort of, I mean, like I said, it was only like 80 minutes. We have a couple.
Nope, looks like we're... so be sure to, if you have any questions for us, send them to us in Super Chat. We'll pick up any of your questions that you have when we take the break between the next movie.
Yeah.
But since we have some stall here, we can just jump right into the next one.
Which is the comedy Poms that I was at while you were at Detective Pikachu.
Oh, good. Okay, here we go.
Here's a clip from the trailer for Poms.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's gonna be a lot tougher than I thought.
When I jump too much, I get dizzy.
I had my knee replaced.
Did I mention I had chlamydia?
I've never had a grandma before, and now it's like I have 8.
You're one of us now.
Now this as you can tell, this is the same people, or at least the same producers, I believe, who brought us last year's book club. Mm-hmm. And I love going to see movies like this in the theater, where you're in a theater with like these older day drunk women audience. I was sitting behind a couple of them on there. So like, you shot me. This is the movie with Diane Keaton, where Diane Keaton, she finds out she's dying of cancer. That's not a spoiler. That's in the trailer, and it's at the beginning of the movie. She's dying of cancer, so she goes to live in a retirement community. And she used to briefly kind of be a cheerleader, and has since had fascination, at least, with cheerleading. Like, it's kind of a she feels it's like a missed opportunity she had when she was younger, because she quit to, I believe, take care of her mom. So in this community she's living in, she makes friends with Jackie Weaver's character, and they have to form their own club in the film. So they all want to kind of recapture their youth a little bit, and they form this cheerleading club. And the movie, it's sort of like a movie like you remember Calendar Girls with Helen Mirren, a little like that, like a movie in that type of thing where here's a group of people doing something you wouldn't expect them to be doing, like a post Full Monty kind of film, a little bit, and that's what this is. It's the audience. I love going to see a movie like this with this particular audience because a lot of it is much like Book Club, which I liked a lot because I kind of like these kind of movies. Yeah. Like we were talking earlier about how, like, you know, I most of my free time is spent just watching old sitcoms. Right. Maybe that's why I kind of like movies like Book Club and movies like this a little bit, especially with seeing it with an audience, because they're super into this movie. Like, they're laughing at like all these jokes going on in the film, and what was even funny how they would be reacting to the trailers in front of this film. Oh, okay. It showed the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And once it popped up, like the 9th film from Quentin Tarantino, this lady in front of me that's probably in their 50s or 60s maybe, leans over to her friend just like, I don't like him. So the trailers all started kind of blending into each other a little bit, because we got one where Natalie Portman is going up into space, and it's called Lucy in the Sky. Yeah. That goes into the trailer for Yesterday, the one about the guy who writes the Beatles, or he's doing Beatles songs because it happens in a universe where the Beatles don't exist. And then that goes into Blinded by the Light, which is a movie about a guy who's a huge Springsteen fan, both starring a couple, I believe, Indian actors, I think. And so then that goes into the Elton John bio movie, Rocket Man. And then when the ladies really like the Rocket Man one, when he's over, is like, leans over like, I like him, Elton John. Like, so they approve of Elton John.
Not so much Quentin Tarantino.
I enjoyed some of the kind of dark jokes that this movie had. So they're in this retirement community and everything, and when Diane Keaton goes to meet with the security guard, he's played by Bruce McGill, who was D-Day in Animal House. Been a bunch of stuff. Great character actor. And he has this older woman who's like his secretary. Later on in the movie, or a scene or two later, Diane Keaton is neighbors with Jackie Weaver's character. At first, Diane Keaton's not really fitting in well because she's there basically because she's there to die. Like, she says, like, she's like, I'm just here to die. And Jackie Weaver's making a lot of noise next door because she's kind of the Rue McClanahan of the movie, where most of her jokes are that she has a lot of sex. They're talking about what their weaknesses are in cheerleading, and they're saying like, well, I had a replaced knee, my shoulder doesn't work. Jackie Weaver's like, I got chlamydia, tons of it. And Diane Keaton's like, I know, you won't stop telling us. What? So Diane Keaton calls Bruce McGill, or she calls the security station. The old woman who's the deputy there answers. She calls in a noise complaint. The old woman who's the secretary there, or the deputy, says to Bruce McGill, like, sounds like we have a 314 in progress. Bruce McGill goes, oh my God, someone's raping someone? She's like, what? Oh, no, I mean a 315. Oh! And then, like, Jackie Weaver says she likes going to a lot of different functions just to get the free food. Yeah. So she and Diane Keaton go to a wake. Just they go to like a freaking funeral just to stock up on free food. And Rhea Perlman is one of the women who joins their group. And at first, Rhea Perlman's like, not allowed to because her husband doesn't want her to, and her husband is obsessed with golf. Like, he has everything in their house that has to do with golf. There's a thing in front of his door that says like, we interrupt this marriage to bring you golf. What? And so Jackie Weaver and Diane Keaton are like, well, what can you ask him again? She goes out there. She's like, well, okay. Goes out there, comes back in, and then she goes, well, he said over my dead body. Next scene, it's this guy's funeral. Where they're like, you don't think she did it, do you? And Diane Keaton's like, no, I'm sure people accidentally mix up their medications all the time. I'm like, did Rhea Perlman just kill this man? I mean, it sounded like he was a dick.
Right.
And then they're like, well, she's not going to want to come to practice. She just lost her husband. And she's like pretending to cry at the funeral. And she's like, I'll see you at practice. What? I was laughing at that shit, man.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah,
the audience was into it too, because
yeah.
they'll be like, of course, a movie like this is like half montage,
right? Yeah.
So there's like, they'll be playing like the Go-Go's in some scenes, and the drunk ladies in front of me are like moving along to We Got the Beat and everything, and some disco music that plays later in the film, but overall, the movie, it's a likable movie. Mm-hmm. It does have a lot of heart to it, certainly. Yeah. There are some genuine performances. Jackie Weaver and Diane Keaton have really good chemistry in the film. I mean, admittedly, like, I'm a sucker for a movie like this.
Right.
These day drunk older woman movies. Like, I enjoy going to these kind of movies. So, like, I enjoyed Book Club more than I like this because this movie's got flaws.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to get into some.
Okay.
Because I believe it's a first-time director. So it's shot like it might as well be like a sitcom on TBS or something like that, which, I mean, the jokes are kind of that way too. So sense. It's not the most well-made movie in the world, certainly, but the movie has like 3 sets of villains in this thing. One is the woman who, like, this former Southern belle who's like, she might as well be the stuffy old dean in this movie. Like, she's the one who's trying to stop them from forming their club. Like she'll think, like, y'all don't have the correct permits. Oh, and she's chasing them down on a bus at the end. Like, she is obsessed with them not having this cheerleading club.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah.
Why? I don't know. No reason, really. She's like, your permits didn't go through. Like, sorry, we can't let you have any more time in the rec room. Like, just why? Like, every villain in this movie is like, why? There's mean girls in the movie, like high school girls.
Right, yeah, it's in the trailer. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Like, so the older ladies have to go to because they can't practice in the rec room at the retirement community. Jackie Weaver's a substitute teacher, and she says, oh, well, I can get us into the high school. So they're changing in the high school locker room. The mean girl cheerleaders come in, literally starting out going, well. Like, why don't you go out there and break a hip, Grandma? And then Jackie Weaver goes like, shouldn't you be giving a hand job to the quarterback? Like, it's like, what'd you say to me? And she's like, oh, nothing. Shouldn't you check if you're pregnant? Like, I was getting me. Like, I was getting some laughs out of me a little bit. But I'm like, what?
Why are they so cruel? Yeah.
And then one who starts out really cruel, like on a dime, just becomes good and becomes like their choreographer. Like, it is like a personality switch like that with one of the girls in this. Jeez. And so when they're practicing at the school, though, Jackie Weaver goes, well, there was only one way that they would let us practice here at the school, which is in the middle of a pep rally. What? The only time you can practice your cheerleading is during this pep rally with the other cheerleaders. Like, really? Like,
that sounds like it's a very busy schedule at that school, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, if everyone's at the pep rally, use one of the classrooms that they're not in.
Right, yeah.
There's really only good characterization with a couple of them. Like, I've mentioned Diane Keaton and Jackie Weaver a lot, because there's 8 of them. Really, most of the other ones are just background, which is kind of unfortunate because one of them's Pam Grier, and I love Pam Grier.
Yeah.
To this day, one of my favorite actresses. And what should be this something really cool with you should be able to go out and say like, oh, there's this movie out right now where like Diane Keaton, Jackie Weaver, Rhea Perlman, and Pam Grier are cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
Pam Grier is just like in the background for all of this.
That's unfortunate. Yeah,
she's given like a couple of throwaway scenes with her husband, which doesn't amount to anything more than like oh, you look good in that uniform. Like it's just. So she's like, I like feeling like a cheerleader again, and that's the extent. Like I'm talking like 10-second scenes. That's I'm true. Like, that's unfortunate. Like you have a really wasted opportunity with Pam Grier being like in this movie about these cheerleaders in a retirement community, and she's just
makes me wonder, just from a filmmaker standpoint, if perhaps she had a much bigger role, but they just cut it out.
I wondered that too.
Like her role, her jokes, her story are on the cutting room floor.
She's third billed on this movie. So
sure. I mean, they probably had a lot for her. I mean, they would. You're not going to attract an actress like that if you have only that much for her to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, she's going to want to say like, my character needs to do something, which she probably did, and then either through test audiences or just like length or studio, they thought this whole everything about her character is not engaging towards the main story. Just kind of which is a shame. I mean,
it is. That was like a really wasted opportunity. Like you have Pam Grier in this movie, and I agree with what you're saying because I was thinking about that during the movie. I'm like, I'll bet you anything there's a lot on the cutting room floor. There's another villain in this movie too, who is my favorite one in this. One of the ladies has a son who's just, for every villain in this movie could be described with for no reason. So this guy, he's her son who's like maybe in his mid 40s. Mm-hmm. Who is like straight up abusive. Like he like has control of her money, and they're like, we need $100 for uniforms, and he just goes, no, you're just trying to scam my mother. I know people like you, and you're not like, I'm the one who's in control of all her money. She does not get $100. He has her kidnapped at the end, like won't let her leave her bedroom. They have to form an escape to go through the window to get this woman away from her son. This guy pulls up on them practicing at one point, gets out of the car to scream at them. The high school girl says like, what's your problem? They're all adults. This guy, I'm not making this up. This guy says to her, he goes, hey, adults are talking, you slut. Like, he says to this high school girl. Like, he was...
Wow.
What I loved about this character is, like, it's the same freaking character that Louis Lovehog played in Disco. I wrote and directed this movie last year called Disco. And one of the antagonists was Louis Lovehog as this wet blanket of a husband who's just constantly complaining, constantly just being a drag and a bummer to like every character in this. That was this guy. Even looks like him. Like, but they got an actor who looks a little bit like him to be in this movie. Like, I just kept thinking it was the Travis character from this movie I made called Disco showing up, just to be just a constant bummer. Like, just for this
incredible cruelty to some poor high school girl.
Yeah. Oh man, but. Like I said, the movie is, it did have, a movie like The Full Monty is way better. A Calendar Girls is a lot better. I liked Book Club a lot better than I liked this. Mm-hmm. I got a handful of laughs out of this movie, though. Like, Jackie Weaver is really good. Diane Keaton's really good. For its audience, its audience is going to have a great time with this movie.
That's good, yeah.
Absolutely. For, like, if you're not the target demographic for this movie, mm-hmm. you could probably just rent it. Like, because, I mean, it's flawed. It is. But it's got some, for movies that take place in a retirement community, it's way better than what Irving and I had to see a couple of years ago with that Just Getting Started movie. It was way better than that.
God, I vaguely remember that one.
I remember it because Irving and I had to leave because of a fire alarm in the theater. No, it wasn't a fire. It was a gas leak in the movie theater.
It was probably the best thing that happened in that movie.
Yeah. It's the best part of that review, too. We got 2 reviews out of that. When we reviewed it there, where we talked about the gas leak, and then a year and a half later, we reviewed the remaining 20 minutes of the movie.
So we've got to tell you, any final thoughts on Poms before we...
you know what? Like, it's...
Well, before you give your final thought, be sure, if you want to have us answer any of your questions, send them in through your super chat right now. Any type of donation, we'll answer your question. We'll try to do that before we pick up and start the 4th review.
Yeah.
But anyway, final thoughts.
No, it's, like I said, I could tell that the audience that was there was having a really good time with it. Like,
That's
they
good.
were...
You know what? Sometimes that's all you want. Is you want to make the certain people who want to see the movie happy.
I mean, there's plenty of there's movies I've gone to see where I've been the only one not enjoying it, and I've still been like, I don't care, I hate this movie. Like Transformers 3 that got a standing ovation at the end. I'm like, I don't care if you had a good time, the movie sucked. This, I was like, no, I like being with this audience here where they're kind of dancing along with it. They look like they have some drinks in them. Like, for overall, it's like, you could probably just rent it and have a good time with it at home. But if you want to go out where there might be like a lot of people in the audience for the movie, for its demographic, they're gonna like this.
All right. So,
okay, Adam.
Eric, we read those already.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, that's what I was saying. If you have any other questions, now's a good time. You can send them in. I'll try to let you know, but be sure to send us something on Super Chat.
Well, they don't want to ask us questions because they want us to get right to talking about Tolkien.
This is what they've been waiting for this whole time.
Mm-hmm. Is Tolkien?
It's Tolkien. Detective who? What? No, Tolkien.
Pokey what? What's that?
What's that?
I'm here for Tolkien, man.
Yeah, damn right.
All right, let's pop up a clip here from Tolkien.
It's about potent magic, a magic beyond anything anyone has ever felt before.
As soon as I hit play on that, we end up getting something from the super chat. Cameron will answer. We'll definitely answer that. We'll answer that after we talk about this movie. It's probably not going to take us very long to talk about this film. This is the new biopic that's out where Nicholas Hoult plays J.R.R. Tolkien. Last week, Laura and I reviewed Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, the one where Zac Efron plays Ted Bundy. Yeah. One of the things we talked about in that movie was whether, like, that we mentioned, like, because that's a movie that's on Netflix, and both of us said, like, this is, I can see why this is on Netflix, where it's like, this is a really, really good movie to pop up on Netflix at home and watch it. I mean, I said in there, I go, even if I saw that movie in the theater, the Ted Bundy movie, I go, I would have left being like, no, I'm glad I saw that. But I understand why it's on Netflix. Sometimes a movie is just, it is perfect to be watching in that instance. Yes. And here we have this movie, and both movies have Lily Collins in them. Yeah. And then here we have this movie where I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, why isn't this on television? And not in a good way. Because I like the Ted Bundy movie. This movie, I was going, I don't feel like I should be watching this in the theater. I feel like this should be something that just should be on, like, I don't know, premiering on HBO or something, or premiering on Netflix or some streaming service, if anything, just so I can, like, take a break halfway through. It's a film that I'm gonna get into the audience to this movie, because the audience was actually, you know what, I am kind of glad this movie was in the theater, because I sort of have a lot to say about the audience. Now, as far as the movie goes, I'm not like, it's a movie that's leading up to everything before he starts writing his books.
Sure.
And I can see, even watching it, going like, I can see how an interesting movie can be made out of this, because there are decent things about it. Him and his friends that he meets in, like, boarding school and goes to Oxford with, the four of them have good chemistry together, and I like a lot of their scenes together. The acting is all around fine in the film. Mm-hmm. When you feel losses later on in the movie, you feel it a little bit, because the four friends are they are good together in it. It's a movie that it starts out just sort of all it's one of those bio movies that starts out all over the place. Yeah. Where, like, it begins where he's a soldier in World War I, and then we're going back to him being a kid, and then we're going back to war, and then we're going back to he meets his love interest. Now we're at boarding school. Now we're back at war. Now he's older and has created his own language. Like, eventually, it ended up kind of finding a structure a little bit. Yeah. Eventually, it kind of did. Early on, no. It was just... There was certainly nothing linear about it. It kept cutting all over the place. And it was one of those films, too, where everyone looks 30. But, But, like, I think they're supposed to be teenagers in some scenes. Because his guardian, played by Cole Meany, his guardian is saying to him, like, you can't see her again until you're 21, and then you can make up your own decisions. And I'm going, like, he looks 31. Yeah, right. Like, granted, this is at a time where even if you were 15, you probably looked 40. So
people only lived, so long. So,
I know. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe this is kind of accurate. So eventually, it kind of did sort of find like a structure that it was going with, like him discovering that he's good at creating language, and then wants to transfer over into a language course that Derek Jacobi's teaching, and then war breaks out and he and his friends have to go to war. And it's even then it's paced kind of fast, but I'm like, all right, well, at least I feel like there's kind of an arc going on.
Yeah.
I saw this movie with the smuggest audience I've ever seen a freaking movie with in my life.
Okay.
This movie, there was a decent amount of people there.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that like spoon feeds you every piece of foreshadowing to what he's about to do later. I've not read Lord of the Rings. I'm not an expert on his life. I've seen those movies, but I only saw them when they were in theaters. I've not gone back to rewatch them. I know just the bare minimum, really, maybe, of a lot of stuff that has to do with the story. Even I was picking up on the foreshadowing that they're putting in here because they're so obvious with it. Whether it's him saying the word Middle Earth, or he's looking over and like dragons are... there's a lot of scenes where he's at war and he looks up and he sees like fantasy dragons like in the battlefield. But even other things too, like they go see... forgive me if I'm getting this wrong. He and Lily Collins go to an opera. I think it's Wagner. And the Rings... they go to see an opera that has the word rings in it.
Oh, okay.
So one character says to him, like, who wants to see a 6-hour thing about rings? So... yeah, it's doing that constantly. Okay. But the audience is reacting as if they're the only ones who are getting this. It is this smug laughter throughout the whole thing. Every time some nod happens in the movie, anytime an in-joke, anytime they recognize a character's name, or what might turn into a name or something from Lord of the Rings, it is this constant, like, from the audience, like, oh yeah.
Oh, see, what you might not know is that the Lord of the Rings movie, when played back to back, it's about 6 hours. Oh, you see, you gotta be, I have an Elvish tattoo on my neck. So
the guy sitting next to me was loudly talking at the screen. I'm like, I was expecting to go see this movie and be the only one there and like maybe fall asleep during it.
Right, yeah.
It's a pretty boring movie. What was keeping me awake was the people talking during it. I'm like, it was a weird experience. It was like being in an audience where they're smug as shit. And they think they're the only ones getting the joke when everyone is. Right. And just humoring them through the movie. Or through this joke that they're saying through it. But it feels like this is happening with an audience that would also have a blog that, like, chastises people for clapping at a movie. Like,
Right, yeah.
That kind of, like, it's like, I'm with this audience. It feels like it's a lot of really cynical people that would, like, talk down to people, like, talking during Endgame. Right. Or, like, reacting to that.
Sure, yeah. Like, how dare you speak during this film? Yeah.
Yeah, but which, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, that stuff can also be... But you expect, like, okay, with Endgame, it's like, all right, when I'm there at, like, a premiere event, I expect there to be a lot of cheering and things like that at the movie. Yeah, fine. Being at this was that for, like... the Frasier cast members. Like, and the guy who kept talking during it, like a character would get in, a character would mention something that would be like, oh, this is gonna turn into like the Shire, and he'd be like, oh no. And then when a character would get in trouble, because it does have like some like stuffy British like people in the movie, and I love that kind of character.
Right, yeah.
So there's a part where Tolkien is drunk on the campus, and it's like late at night, and he's on Oxford. He's drunk walking through there, and he lays down on the lawn, and then the windows open, and there's like a bunch of old British guys leak going, what's going on out here? And dude next to me just goes, oh boy. and then when he meets with the language professor, he says to him, he's like, what do I have to do to get in your class? He goes, I want you to write me a 5,000-page essay. Tolkien's like, oh, when do you need it by? And the guy's like, this evening. Dude sitting next to me just goes, whew, talk about pressure. That was...
oh, boy.
I know I'm talking more about the audience than this movie, but, which kind of tells you that there's not that many...
the movie itself is not that interesting.
No, the movie itself, it's not that it's a bad film.
Sure, it's just not a... Well, see, because that's the thing, is that since there's been a couple of movies that did do well as biopics about writers, like they keep pushing these things through, but... I mean, obviously, parts of his life are somewhat interesting. I mean, you said it yourself. There's just because of his achievements in creating the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and creating the Elvish language and how intricate it was. I mean, he's done some amazing things. Yeah, like notably so, and he's been long celebrated for doing that. So it's like it's like, oh, okay, this is that's somewhat interesting, but you're right, it's not like a theatrical. You got to see this in the movie.
It felt like it wasn't a very entertaining movie. Like it was, I was getting antsy throughout the film. It was reminding me of how much better. What was that? The Imitation Game, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, where he was It was reminding me of how much better that movie was, because they both about very different things.
Sure,
both bios. They have a similar look to them. Really,
sure. That old. English dry kind of
so it was reminding me about how much more interesting that movie was, even in its writing, its storytelling, and its pacing. This was more on the level of you could do a good movie out of this, but it's not more interesting than just watching what he did. Like that Ron Howard movie that was out a couple years ago about the dude who wrote, or the story that inspired Moby Dick.
Oh, yeah.
It was this isn't more interesting than Moby Dick. It's like, there's been, good movies about authors out there. Like Finding Neverland. That was a good movie. Let's not forget Goosebumps, the biography on R.L. Stine.
Of course. How can I forget that?
This was, I don't know. Like, I guess if you're an expert on this man, maybe there's a lot more there for you, because the audience seemed to like it. The audience seemed like they like it only because they felt like they should. Like they'll feel really smart that they're the ones who gets it.
Right.
I know. Like this is. I am glad I saw this in a theater. Just to be in there and that experience.
That's pretty damn funny. I mean, because even when I was watching, Detective Pikachu. There was somebody who kind of spoke up a couple times and like mentioned, that's a that.
Oh yeah.
But it was never really annoying. He was never like, see, now that's that's way more pretentious.
Of all the movies that are out this week, I expected Detective Pikachu to be that film. It's like you just said. Yeah. It's like. I don't remember that happening in my screening for Detective Pikachu.
Well, and he only did it a couple times, but I mean, it was less like, dude, shut up. Stop talking during the movie. It was like, there's a that. Or then he never got annoying, and he only did it a few times.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I can see the impulse to do it, because there are, like we talked in that review, there's a lot of times where there's like crowd shots and you see one go by. And it's like, there's a that, So, but that sounds. I mean, for me, that was not even annoying. It was just notable because it happened. But
I was not about to tell these people to be quiet because it was the only thing carrying me through this film. Like, there was a guy in Endgame who was shouting up things at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, it probably was annoying to everybody else in the theater.
Yeah.
The only reason why it wasn't to me is because he was next to my wife and who was not enjoying the movie. I mean, the Avengers aren't her thing. Like, so she really wasn't enjoying the movie, so it was just kind of funny that of all the people to sit next to her, it was the most annoying guy in the theater.
Yeah.
But Tolkien, it's rent it, I guess. Like,
sure, if you're interested in his life, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't go over 2 hours, thank God.
Right. Yeah. That's
because it easily could have. I was more so just looking at Oxford, going like, "Oh, I remember the scene from Heaven's Gate that was shot there."
Right. Exactly.
So I saw we got one.
We got one right here.
All right. So thank you, Cameron Findlay. Oliver Reed as Bond or would I like Oliver Reed as James Bond or John Saxon as Bruce Wayne? Well, not now. That'd be kind of awkward. Unless we're doing like CGI's gotten that good. We've brought back Oliver Reed to play Bond. Oh, John Saxon's still alive, I think. But
right, yeah.
So yeah, he could play Bruce Wayne.
He could play the old Bruce Wayne in Batman. What is it? The one where Bruce is
Batman Beyond. Is that?
There's a TV show.
Yeah.
Somebody help me out here. Batman. I don't know. They'll tell me what it is. But he's the one where, like, there's a young kid and Bruce Wayne is an old man and he's mentoring.
That I would want to be Michael Keaton.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you're going to have this guy be, Bruce Wayne.
Then it would be that one. Yeah. Batman Beyond.
Is it Batman Beyond?
Yeah.
Okay,
George Lazenby was in that. He was like King Card, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. It was a cartoon show anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's my dream of there being like an older Batman movie and it's Michael Keaton again.
Oh, that'd be
That's
great.
like my dream movie.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
No, but if we're going back to like when Oliver Reed would have been age appropriate to play James Bond, he'd have been a great Bond villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, yeah, Oliver Reed would have been he totally would have. I mean, it would be, for curiosity's sake, like, yeah, I want to see the alternate universe where drunken Oliver Reed is playing James Bond. Dude, totally.
Yeah,
Make it be Moonraker, too.
Why
not?
Sure, yeah.
The craziest Bond movie. Put Oliver Reed in there. No, I like Oliver Reed a lot. But no, thank you so much for the questions. I think that's about... Did we get through all 4 movies on it?
We got through all 4 movies, man.
Fantastic. We got through all 4 movies in the length that it took to watch The Hustle.
Woof.
What's coming out next weekend? I gotta see him on like Friday afternoon next weekend because I gotta do a big editing thing on Thursday. We're gonna look up real quick to see what's coming out for next weekend.
Let's see here.
But yeah, get your while we're doing that. If you have any last minute super chat questions for us, go ahead and throw them on in there before we end for the night.
Here's what we got coming up.
Oh, we got John Wick 3 and A Dog's Journey, which sounds like it should be the subtitle for John Wick 3. And I don't know what Lifelike is.
Wait, was that this weekend? Is the 14th this weekend? That's middle of the week.
So yeah, we got John Wick.
Next weekend, John Wick, and then A Dog's Journey.
Dog's Journey,
it's like
and
a Johnny Depp movie. I don't know if that's coming here.
The Sun is also a star. That I think is coming to Springfield. So we're gonna do. So honestly, stay tuned because we would like to start getting into doing. I know that we on the other show that we used to do before we started doing this format. Sometimes we would do like trailer reviews of things. So we're gonna end this show right now, but stick by your phone or computer or whatever you're watching this on because we're going to do a trailer review for something here in a little bit. And you don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. This is going to be to surprise me. So
I know what it is, and if you've been on Twitter today, you probably know what it is too.
I haven't. I've been working all day, so I have no idea.
Thank God.
So this should be good.
Yeah.
This should be good.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna kind of get things set up here to do that, but we'll be back here in a little bit to talk about that. But until then, we'll see you next weekend with the other 3 movies. Thanks a ton for watching, everyone.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let me pop up. Let me go ahead and pop up our end screen real quick. It's all the way at the top because I had so much.
So much to talk. It's all those Strokemon pictures you put in there.
I made sure to put in like
inappropriate, man. You're inappropriate.
Subscribe to our channel at youtube.com/StoneGremlin Productions. Like and share our videos, retweet our videos, follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob, and we'll see you next weekend. Thanks a million, everyone, for watching.